Hello, I'm Taylor Cummings, senior at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and today I'm going to talk to you about William Shakespeare and just give you a couple little facts. So, working with theater history, William Shakespeare is basically the pioneer of everything we know about rhyme and rhythm up to now. Any rappers, singers, songwriters, half the time we're quoting Shakespeare. I'll actually insert a little picture here of Chick-fil-A, to dip or not to dip, owing to Hamlet. So William Shakespeare is a founding father of a lot of things, including personality. So personality as we know it is a byproduct of studying Shakespeare, which is crazy. So hundreds of years later, hello, I'm Taylor Cummings, senior at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and this is part 2 of William Shakespeare's facts. And thank you for picking back up with us, and let's pick up where we left off. Part 2 of William Shakespeare's facts. So let's just pick back up where we left off. Father, personality, and many other things. So 400 years later, his poems, his plays, everything are still quoted, still relevant, and still mind-boggling to this day. So people are still arguing about what did Shakespeare mean when he said this, and what does this truly mean, or it could be interpreted this way. And 400 years later, he's still one of the most talked about people in the whole world. It's crazy. He's surpassed time, which is the goal of every artist, is to live past your physical time on earth. There's a saying that you die the first time physically, and the second time, the last time your name is uttered. And so we can say that William Shakespeare is basically immortal. So let me go through some facts for y'all, just to give you a little extra tidbit of information that you might not have known before. So, who is William Shakespeare? William Shakespeare is a poet, author, playwright, and actor who was born in the torrid century. So who is William Shakespeare? He is the greatest playwright, writer, actor, poet of all time, and is still up for debate today. So his full name was William Shakespeare, and he was born, we don't actually know. Actually, there's still conspiracies as to was William Shakespeare even one person, but we'll get into that later. So we know that he was baptized on April 26, 1564. And his hometown is Stratford-upon-Avon, England. So we all know what he did. He was a playwright, he was an author, he was an actor, he was a poet. So he died on April 23rd, 1616. So he's best known for his theatrical plays, Hamlet. Actually, I'm starring in Macbeth. I play Lady Macbeth. Here at UNCP, we'll have a show later in October. The dates are the 28th and 29th. So it should be live streamed and it should be fun. So he's also known as the Bard of Avon, which is a pretty cool name, I have to admit. So, during his lifetime, William Shakespeare wrote about 37 plays for the theater and over 150 poems. So those are called Shakespeare's sonnets. And I can actually do one for you if you'd like, so that way you can see just how the words might sound funny, but the emotions are all the same. So, as an unperfect actor upon a stage, who, with his fear is put beside his part, or some fierce beast repelled with too much rage, whose strength abundance weakens his own heart. So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and my own love's strength seems to decay, overcharged with the burden of my own love's might. Let my looks be then the eloquence, the dumb passengers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense, more than that tongue that more hath more expressed. Oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ, and hear with eyes belong to love's fine wit. So that was sonnet 23 out of Shakespeare's sonnets, and he has over 150 of these, and he talks about his lovers and his trials and turmoils, and basically him just experienced life, and he had a terrible love life. That's what everyone can say about Shakespeare. He had tremendous success in his career, but his love life really, because it suffered so much, it benefited him because he could use it for his craft. So it was born during the Tudor period. He was one of 8 children born to John Shakespeare and Mary Arden. So she was the heir to a wealthy family, and he was a farmer. And she was the heir to a wealthy family, and he was a glove maker and a leather worker, so they say. These are just the records we can find, but no one can really say that Shakespeare is Shakespeare, so it's kind of this ongoing search. But you can go visit his house still in his hometown in England. It still stands, and they've rebuilt the Globe Theater over there, and it's beautiful, and I hope to one day go and see it. So very little is actually known about Shakespeare, as I said, his early years. The actual date of his birth is a mystery to this day, and it's believed that he had a decent childhood and attended good schools and enjoyed to play outside as to why he was able to be able to write so well. So in 1582, William Shakespeare married a farmer's daughter, Anne Hathaway, and not the Anne Hathaway of today, but it's kind of cool. And they had children together. They had a daughter named Susan and twins Judith and Hamnet. And it's Hamnet, and then he wrote it's Hamlet. Are y'all keeping up? So in 1585, Shakespeare disappeared for 7 years. Now today, legally after 7 years, you can be declared dead. So this man dropped off the face of the earth. All records of him were gone for 7 years. And this point in time is often called the lost years of the writer's life, because we kind of believe that he started his writing young if he attended good schools, right? So for him to have developed, he clearly started younger, and so a lot of the stuff from his childhood is missing. So there might have been earlier works of Shakespeare out there that we have no idea about. So after he disappeared for 7 years, so in 1585, he disappeared for 7 years. Then in 1592, he suddenly pops up in London, a playwright, an author, and an actor. Drops off the face of the earth, comes back, William Shakespeare as we know him today. So, but Shakespeare had it rough. A lot of his colleagues criticized him. So the university wits, as they called them, his rivals, they were jealous of him, and he didn't have it easy. They made fun of his work. One writer named Robert Greene referred to him as an upstart crow. Okay, so Shakespeare was part of the Lord Chamberlain's Men. That was his theater group. And they performed at a place called the Theater. The Theater. That's where they performed. And so they actually had issues with the landlord and completely tore down the building and built it across the street. And this is now the Globe Theater that we know of today that still stands, which is wonderful. So the Globe is more of a arena style, I would say, or amphitheater more so. So it's an open area theater where people could walk in, all walks of life would come in, and they could see, anyone could watch and perform. Where people could, of all walks of life, could walk in, and anyone could walk in and see anyone perform. Everyone was able to walk in and watch performances. The lower class individuals were at the bottom, and then as you moved up, because it has like the curved amphitheater to it, so the higher you are, the queens and stuff are at the top. But everyone would come and watch his plays. Everyone. It was packed all the time. It was their only escape. There was no TV, there was no cell phones. So theater really did bring life to the stage, and then it also brought people closer together because it gave them an escape from reality where they could have this catharsis, where they could be around other individuals and laughing. So movies as we know it, everything, just being in these spaces together. And COVID kind of makes this really difficult now, but we're social creatures. And so William really worked to bring out those social aspects of people and really decipher them and write about them and figure out what all they meant. So when Shakespeare started writing, he came back. His plays were a hit. He knocked it out the park, sold out all the time. He had tragedies, he had comedies, he had histories. So his tragedies included Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Romeo and Juliet. Comedies, Twelfth Night, The Taming of the Shrew. History, Henry IV, Henry V, and Richard III. So he actually would write for royals. So Hamlet, Macbeth, all of that. He actually would write for kings and queens and write stories for them. So he was blowing up, and this actually made him super duper famous. And he was blowing up, and this made him super famous. So by 1598, Shakespeare owned several houses across Avon and London, England. Stratford up Avon. So by 1598, William Shakespeare owned several houses in London and Stratford up Avon in England. So Shakespeare's plays had the royal stamp of approval. He was actually friends with Queen Elizabeth I and King James VI. So they fiend over his plays. They thought he was so wise and his art was so amazing. And this really builded the arts. People loved Shakespeare. They wanted more of this. They wanted so much more. So plays during this time did not have the societal norms that we do today. It was way more free. You know how cartoons, they throw tomatoes? Well, they really did throw tomatoes if you were terrible. So there was no female actors at the time. So all of these female parts, right, there's queens and stuff, they were played by men. All these female roles were played by men. And the audience was so close to you. And but all the female parts were played by men because there was no female actors at the time. Women didn't act, which has changed today, and I do appreciate that. So the audience was way more vocal than we are now. They would scream and cheer and boo if they didn't like actors. They would even throw their food. So like the peanut gallery, yes, there's like little peanut shells everywhere because they would throw food at you. It was a tough time to be an actor, really. The critics was everyone, and everyone had the right to speak on it, and it was interesting. So the Globe Theater was like any other. It actually had a ton of special effects. So they had trapdoors, actors on wires, smoke bombs, cannons. And in 1613, a cannon actually burnt the whole theater to the ground, a misfire, and it burned it all down. And this is when Shakespeare decided that he was going to take a break from theater for a while. It was a little too much for him right then. So when disaster struck in 1613, this caused Shakespeare to decide that he wanted to retire from the theater. So soon after, he died April 23rd, 1616, at the age of 52. So soon after he died on April 23rd, 1616, after falling fatally ill, and it's rumored that he died on his birthday because he was christened, remember, April 26th. So it is rumored, but no one knows for sure that that was actually Shakespeare's birthday. And then also, we still don't know if Shakespeare is actually Shakespeare, because we actually have rumors that Shakespeare could have been a group of people. Shakespeare could have been a woman, because during that time where he went missing, no one could say, did he steal other works? Did he actually go work on his past works? Like, when did Shakespeare become Shakespeare? So you can find William Shakespeare's Holy Trinity. So you can actually find William Shakespeare's gravestone in the Holy Trinity Church in Stamford up in Avon. And he actually wrote a curse on it himself, like that he wanted on there. So I'm going to read it for you. And it says, "Good friend of Jesus, sake forbear. Good friend of Jesus, good friend of Jesus, sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones." That's what's on Shakespeare's tombstone. It's pretty crazy. So today, William Shakespeare is studied by several scholars. I'm actually currently studying him in several classes, and as I said, performing in Macbeth. So I actually can do another monologue for you from Macbeth, Lady Macbeth. And so this is, I believe, Act 2, Scene 2. So, that would have made them drunk hath made me bold. That which hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace. 'Twas the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the Suffet guards do mock their charge with snores. I have drugged their possets, and death and nature do contend about them, whether they live or die. So, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys, and tune in again next week, and we'll have something new.